continuation of the Monday, March 30th Committee of the Whole meeting, today on April the 13th. It's about 5:35 p.m. So in terms of the agenda itself, I believe what we've done is we've gone down as far as the 5-year financial plan, and there's been a variety of motions, recommendations from the committee with regards to inclusion of items and where they are to come from. So, other items related to the budget. 5-year financial plan. Ways up. Anybody like to start off with respect to items that they have questions about, concerns about? The last items that we had gone through.
And there is a motion on the floor.
Which was?
That was the cost of the call one, I believe.
If you go to the minutes.
Yep.
The motion on the floor is the committee will recommend that council instruct staff to remove $20,000 for cost of hall and church in the maintenance building account.
And that's when we ran out of time.
Page 10.
Thank you.
Page 10.
Yeah, page 10, the back of the item with the pink sheet. So put the pink sheet very back.
Okay.
Okay. Pink sheet. Yeah, too much paper here. Okay. Now, Trudy.
Yes?
Had that motion been made and seconded?
Yes, it had.
Okay.
It was on page 9. It was moved by Councillor Colson, seconded by Councillor Haynes.
Oh, there we are down there at the bottom.
And then at the top of page 10, you broke the
Oh, and then you
extend the meeting.
Okay.
And then it was still on the floor, but the meeting ended.
Thank you very much. Okay, so bottom of page 9, there was a motion. Councillor Colson, Councillor Haynes. To move the $20,000 for cost and hall and church and maintenance building account 1-5- etc. in the financial plan. Councillor Colson.
Can I suggest an amendment that we make that $15,000, not $20,000? And I would suggest that because I think we closed off the discussion around some operating versus capital costs and that kind of threshold.
Okay.
So I don't want to go to zero, but
you can make a motion.
sure. Okay.
Yeah. Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion? Councillor Haynes. Discussion. Councillor Scott.
I'll speak to it. I'll agree with that. We need something in there. It maybe move up or down a little bit. I don't know because you can't always go over budget on things. But again, it's they're older buildings, and we need to do some things in them. And I think part of this ties into we need to have that broader discussion on cost and the church. But some things are to the point they have to be dealt with. So no matter what we do with Costin and the church, there's still some things we have to deal with. I'll support that motion just to keep things moving.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Savage.
Thank you. Through you to staff. So what was the full amount that was recommended there for the building and maintenance? We're talking about reducing it by 15.
No, I think it's 15, so that reflects 15,000.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm okay with that. In my opinion, we have to leave something in that. For sure, whether 15,000 is enough, I don't know, but I guess if there's an issue, we can always.
Just want to clarify. Councillor Colson, can you clarify your motion, please?
No, my suggestion was to reduce it by 15, and I think that was 250. I'm trying to find it in here right now. I think it was 20. And I had suggested going to zero because there was already in the capital reserves budget. There's already $28,000 going to cost and hall there, and $20,000 for the church.
So just for clarity for the recorder, I had strike 20,000 and insert 15,000. So that was incorrect. It was strike 20 and insert 5.
Correct, that would,
So, okay, or
Second.
remove 15.
okay. Seconder, does that
Sure.
confirm my understanding? Okay. Councillor Milbank.
This motion last time, it came a little bit out of left field for me. There's a lot of connection with the Seaside Society, so I'm going to excuse myself for perceived conflict of interest for business reasons on this one.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that was for business reasons?
Okay, Councillor Scott.
I don't question through to staff. With me being appointed the representative of the Seaside Community Association, is there a conflict there?
I don't believe you're a voting member.
I'm not a voting member
My take on it would be no,
because I'm a
but
representative.
staff wish to comment?
I have no idea. That's why I'm asking the question.
For the staff, we've been advised in the past it's not our role to advise members of council if you are or not in conflict. It's a personal decision. However, I do recall there being information in the orientation information that was received that indicated that, it was in the CUF session and with Don Woodstone, that if you're not a voting member, that is... That's what
And just for clarity, just as a question with the previous council, because I believe Councillor Savage was the representative previously, and was there ever a need that you felt that
Not in my opinion. I mean, I think this is a bit like the discussion and the advice we had on the water issue. We're making decisions here for the benefit of the broader community. There's certainly no pecuniary interest, I don't think.
And certainly since the last term, there was new case law. So again, as it is with legal advice, it evolves with case law. And there was case law where a bulletin came out from the different municipal firms in relation to a case where a member of council was appointed as a director on the society. And in that case, they were in conflict.
Yes.
Is that the Salt Spring one? Yeah.
So that's just the direction of one society as opposed to a member.
Now, it's your call.
I
Councillor Scott.
don't think I'm in conflict.
Okay.
I'm not voting.
Okay, so now we're back to the motion, or the amendment to the motion. Discussion on the amendment. Okay, so we have
The amendments to...
the amendments to reduce the amount down to 5%, or $5,000, not 5%.
From 20.
Councillor Scott?
Yeah, I have a little bit of issue with that until we resolve the cost and hall and church situations. I think there needs to be some money that's spent there, and I don't know if that would be sufficient to do some of the things that are required. And I think council requires more information to start dealing into that level of cutting.
Okay, Councillor Hayman and Todd.
Two things. First off, anything that needs to be done at those buildings are going to be substantial. So that's what we have capital reserves for. So I think we've got quite a bit in the capital reserve to cover that off. And like we've mentioned numerous times through this process, it's a plan. We can always amend it later and put more in if we need it. But right now, why have it sitting there as a contingency when we don't even know? So why not leave it at the 5, and if circumstances change, we can amend it.
Todd?
So just for clarification, there's 25,000 currently in that line item on the budget. So if it's, as Councillor Coulson suggests, to remove 15, that would leave 10, not 5. So just for clarification, if that's the amount that committee will choose.
Yeah, I believe the other 5 relates to this building, if I'm correct.
No, we didn't specify.
No, historically, before we took on the buildings,
It was
there
related
used
to
be
it.
5 for other municipal buildings.
So we're leaving 10 in there.
Yes.
Try not to confuse the issue totally. But the motion that was on the floor was to instruct staff to remove 20,000, from the budget. And the motion to amend
Yes.
was to strike that 20 and change that 20. And so you want to, it was to change it to 15.
Correct.
So that it reads, instruct staff to remove 15,000.
Yeah. Which
So
means,
then leave the, yeah, that's okay, good.
And if I
Yes,
may,
I would leave 10.
I'll quickly explain the rationale of that. Now I'm working off of 3 different sets of information, so the numbers might not be quite current, so I apologize. So in 2013, the actual for facilities operations and maintenance was $20,600. In 2014, it was $10,418. We have budgeted $36,000 moving forward. So 15 reduction would put us in line with the 2013 actuals. Still margin over the 2014 actuals. Yeah, and then we've got a healthy capital reserve fund there of $127,000. Sorry, wrong line item. $138,000 there for larger projects. I think I've heard of things like the dishwasher needs to be replaced and such, so that'll leave some money for that. And bigger ticket items, there's the reserve for them.
Councillor Scott.
Can I suggest rewording of the motion? When we talk about reducing versus what the actual amount is, I think it really clouds the...
Okay, my take on it, the intent was to reduce the 25 down to 10.
Well, there's notes in here that speak to several buildings,
Yes.
but where I came up with a number, and I mentioned it for cost and haul, but it's a broader line item. So it's facilities, operations, and maintenance under the general fund. And so I see going from 37 down to 22
For that line.
for that line item. And that could largely be peeled from cost and haul, could be partially peeled from the church, however we so choose to skin that cat.
What if we ask a question through the Director of Finance as to how would you like it worded?
Oh, it's fine to just do a loan production and we'll have 10,000 for municipal buildings and
Okay, so
Yeah, that's
reduce
fine.
the
We don't-
25,000 for municipal buildings down to 10.
if that's the direction, it's fine if it's in a loan like that.
Okay. So the motion as it read, Trudy?
You're still on the amendment?
Yes.
Council amends, committee of the vote amends the motion on the floor to strike quote 20,000 and insert quote 15,000. For the final motion to be considered to read, the council instructs staff to remove 15,000 from the maintenance building account in the financial plan.
Okay, this
Got
lists a specific account, so does that line item?
Yeah, it's got it right. It's
Okay,
got the
so-
wrong church.
Yeah.
Line item, account 015-10-5.
Okay, so it would reduce that specific line item. Okay.
And I have further information there on the detailed general ledger we have. We spent $2,400 in 2014. Actuals pre-TCA. So.
Okay, so Councillor Scott, the motion itself, because it relates to a specific line item, would reduce that line item itself down to the $10,000 effectively.
From what page are we?
Well, and that's
working on.
part of
That's
the
what I
issue
was
is that
looking
I believe that the reference to the line item account would be from the detail general ledger line item. So where we'd be looking is
Here's our March 2nd committee of the whole meeting.
March 2nd?
Yeah. And it's account,
okay. So if you're looking at the March 30th Cal meeting agenda,
that's what I'm looking at. Oh, here it is.
page 53.
Yeah, that's where it is. Yeah.
Okay.
I got it up there.
So page 53, facilities, operations, and maintenance line there.
And that's currently 38,600, and that's going to end up at 22.
23,600. Reduction of 15. Grant, did I get you? I had your initials here on my page. Oh, actually, I think that was a neat question for you. And maybe Councillor Scott, the dishwasher
Yes.
was mentioned.
Yes.
I seem to recall a discussion about possible replacement of the dishwasher, and then there was a reference to, we've solved the problem from somebody in the public.
I think maybe Councillor Scott can speak
Yeah,
more
it's,
detail.
I think it is, for the time being, it is solved.
Okay.
specifically speaking to the actual dishwasher.
Yeah.
It's interesting that the estimate that I last heard was just over 9,000 for a commercial dishwasher.
Yeah, yeah, and the region's going through a similar thing, and they've found alternatives, but,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, no, this stuff's not cheap when you're dealing with commercial.
Okay, so where that leaves us is, everybody identified what line item we're talking about here and the reduction itself? Okay, any further discussion on the amendment? None, all's in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Back to the original motion as amended. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all's in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so that deals with the motion that was on the floor from the last meeting, and so now effectively we're into the new part of the committee of the whole. Further discussion items, questions, concerns about the financial plan? Councillor Coulson.
I'm going to make a motion. I move that council creates a financial review standing committee
With a purpose of?
I thought I'd get to that in discussion. So it's the purpose to provide an additional layer of financial oversight into our budgeting process, potentially assist staff.
Okay.
I'll stop there. Okay.
Yeah. Let's stick with the original motion and go to the discussion, if that's all right. Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second it for discussion.
Councillor Hain, discussion. Now,
Yeah, so in the last meeting, there were some concerns raised that we were boring into too great a detail in the budget, and it was taking up a lot of time, and we are running out of time in our process here. And that's true. So I suggest in such a committee so that they, like I say, they can provide an additional level of oversight into our budgeting process. They can go into the general ledger details and comment, scrutinize, so forth. I also see this as an opportunity to help staff. So an example would be like our sound and audio equipment. A quote was obtained, I believe it was just a single quote. This group could assist in doing that, finding other quotes, doing the cost-benefit analysis, passing forward recommendations to the councils to basically assist us in ensuring we're getting good value for our dollars spent.
further discussion. Councillor Scott.
I think we touched on this on the last COW meeting. I think this is something we need to take forward into the fall to deal with. I think we need to look at how we deal with our financial plan its entirety, because I think there were some questions by various councillors on it. So I think it's I won't support the motion at this point in time, because I think it's something we need to deal with, preferably in a COW session in the fall, because I think it's a bigger discussion.
Okay, further discussion? Councillor Saab.
Yeah, I won't be supporting it either at this time. I think, if we go back to the strategic planning section, I believe there was an item brought up there to look at committees for the district, and I don't think anything evolved out of that very preliminary discussion. There are probably several committees that we should consider, so I don't see why this one's just jumped out of the cake at this particular time.
Okay, further discussion? Councillor Coulson?
Sorry, as I kick this around in my head, I saw this committee starting within several months, 3 months perhaps, so that we would hit the ground in 2016 with some good information and background on the budgeting process in 2016. Not waiting until we start the process.
Okay, additional, Councillor Hain?
So just follow up with Councillor Scott. So what are you envisioning? Sort of looking at this issue in September, or?
I would say in the fall, in September or October, having a more wholesome discussion and talking about our financial plan and the financial planning process, because I think everybody's seen, our revision 4, where we've struggled through it a little bit, rightly or wrongly, and coming up with some suggestions and ideas, working with staff to come up with a potentially better way forward, so that it satisfies everybody's needs. But I think it needs to be a more discussion.
So could we entertain maybe tabling this and bringing it back in September? Is that something we could do?
I think we
Well, we're recognizing we're in a cow type of an aspect. Wouldn't, just kind of as a thought, wouldn't it make sense to defeat the motion itself, but refer, as Councillor Scott raised, the topic of budget process, budget information, etc., to a cow in September for that discussion? Because tabling the creation of a committee where we haven't really kind of vetted the idea of the terms of reference or the structure of it really kind of ends up at the same point. So rather than kind of having it sit there, why not just say what we're going to do, which, like I said, could be referring to a cow or pushing forward to a cow with regards to that sort of discussion. Just some thoughts. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Recorded vote.
Recorded vote?
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
It's committee of the whole, and actually I double-checked the procedural bylaw, and no recorded votes in committee of the whole.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been a while since I've read that section.
We've
Yeah.
always done it for years.
Yes, we have. Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion defeated. Okay.
Do you want to make a motion to refer it to September?
Okay.
So
I make the motion to refer this previous motion? I don't know how I would say it.
The motion's gone,
Yes?
yeah,
so I think you're just making a motion to, for discussion of that topic.
budget,
financial planning and budget.
financial planning and budgeting process to a committee of the whole in September. Don't know what our schedule looks like for September, but
Okay, we don't have any committee of the holes.
We can make
we can make
Okay.
it. We can make it.
Okay.
And sorry, again, it was to refer the discussion of financial planning and budget process
Yes,
to a committee of the whole in September.
yes. That's what John said.
Yes, sounds good.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hain?
All right.
You make the motion. Okay, any further discussion? Councillor Savage?
Yeah, I'm not going to oppose it, but my preference would be to see a motion that brings the whole idea of community committees to the forefront. We should look at planning committee, we could look at finance committee. There's quite a few things we could look at in a broader scope rather than just focusing on this one item. So that would be my preference. You know, we had volunteers come forward, well, not volunteers, but people come forward at the strategic planning session to help us with communication. There's lots of options out there to help us do the work better and more efficiently.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Any further on the financial plan detail? Councillor Coulson.
Regarding computer contract and maintenance, just looking through the handout we got from getting to the meeting and response to some of the questions I'd asked. So question through to staff. The line item contract computer maintenance, it's account 10-530. Show us budgeting $20,280 for 2015. And there must be something additional that's covering. In the reply I got in the email, it said the monthly cost for our IT support is $837. So per year, that's $10,050. I'm curious what makes up the other $10,000 in that line item.
So there's the IT support of the website. There is the contract cost for our IT support. I don't have
Councillor Coulson, was your question just for information's sake, or?
Yeah, because I'm concerned at the amount we're spending on IT maintenance for the volume or the number of computers we have. And so I see the monthly fee for the fixed price contract we have. And so I was curious what makes up the balance of that.
Sorry, I'm recalling now. The remaining part is our contract with VATM, which is our financial management system. The only costs that are in there are specific costs that will be payable this year. There's no allowances or anything. Those are the exact amounts.
Okay, so it's about $10,000 for the, so Adam, you said?
VATM.
VATM, okay.
Any further?
Yep, another question then. So we have, similar as to the Coston Hall Heritage Church, we have operating expenses and then contributions to the capital reserve. I see we have admin equipment we're contributing $9,300 to per year, or sorry, in 2015 we did, and there's $127,000 in there that has accumulated. What was the threshold again for operating versus capital for equipment?
Typically $10,000.
$10,000. So computers themselves would be in the operating side of things.
Typically, yes.
What type of big equipment do we have? I know we had the imager last year. I'm curious how we're rolling up to almost $140,000 at the end of this year, and what items we have identified to spend that on.
So the other amounts that are allocated generally, and that reserve contribution amount was set based on a Suncor evaluation of the district's assets a number of years ago, which would be updated with that asset management process this year. But in any case, it was meant to include things like our phone system, which probably has a replacement cost of about $50,000. Financial system software, which is they do kind of an overhaul of the financial management system, which can approximate about $15,000 perhaps every 8 years. Digital imagers, and then if there was a significant office furniture, say for example the office expanded or it was just due to replace a bunch of equipment that was purchased when the district incorporated, that would be all kind of incorporated within that admin equipment reserve.
You mentioned the asset management plan.
Yeah.
And that would, because originally back when we did insurance stuff and that created a schedule.
Right.
The asset management plan would provide an update to that schedule?
That's right. Starting with the appraisal that was suggested for this year, they would provide us with new replacement dollars for all of those significant assets. Then from there we would say, okay, what's in our reserve now as compared to what are the replacement dollars required? And then we could adjust reserve contributions and or amounts from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And would that be something that could be incorporated into the 2016 budgeting process?
I would expect so, yeah, because I would think that appraisal would be kind of the first step in that asset management process. So those amounts I would expect should be ready. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Further, Councillor Coulson on that?
Nope, that's right. Thank you.
Okay. Next. Anything else? Councillor Coulson.
I move that council reduces $14,000 from the legal professional fees for 2015 and forward.
Seconder?
I'll second the discussion. I know, because you hate that.
Discussion. Councillor Coulson.
Yeah, the background is I went back to 2004 and up to 2011 and looked at the annual average, and it's $26,000 a year. I didn't look at 2012 and 2014 because things were a little screwy then, so I left them out of the analysis.
Different.
So I suggest we reduce $14,000 and in line with the averages pre-2012.
Councillor Hain.
I think on the regular agenda, we've got that we're going to look at our legal contract as one of our contract renewals, correct? Will that not get sort of covered off in that?
was one of the items coming forward to be added to, oh, that's correct.
So would that not get covered off in when we do a legal review?
I guess it would be a potential savings, but in this process, we would cap the amount we would spend on legal, and if we exceeded it, it would be an amendment. Correct?
Yeah, it's effectively what would happen. Okay, further discussion on the motion. Councillor Scott?
Legal, like snow removal, is something I think that's highly unpredictable in a lot of cases. Councillor Milbank could probably talk to it to the best of all of us. You don't know a lot of times what you're going to be dealt with, and I'm looking at 2014. It was 43,000, and we have budgeted 50,000. To me, I think I'd prefer leaving it at that level, and if it's if we get some history that it's coming down, then we can always lower it. But I prefer myself to leave it at that level. You never know what you're going to run into, and I don't think it's abnormally high.
I'm not sure why, I was just passing along.
There are 8 years of history pre-2012. Just passing out.
Just for clarification from staff with regards to the 2014 number, did that include the monies, the legal fees for monies that were recovered then from Foothills?
So this amount is gross.
So separately there was a revenue.
The recovery is included in miscellaneous revenue.
Okay. So the net legal was that minus about 16?
Right.
From my memory? Okay. Okay, just for information.
So, question through to staff. So the net legal then, in effect, was 20-some-odd thousand for 2014?
Yes. And of course, that recovery wasn't known when the budget was set last year, which
Right.
is why it was a surplus item in 2014.
Okay, further discussion on the motion.
Are the motions taken into?
Down to 26, reducing 14 from the current 40,000 that I think we have budgeted.
40,000 budget, yeah.
Yeah.
How about if I'm going to move an amendment, take it from a reduction of 14 to a reduction of 7. I feel like I'm bidding a poker game.
Question, can we, instead of having reductions, can we specify specific amounts? Because I think it really gets confusing. It's currently at 40.
Okay, see, I was playing to the way the motion itself. Trudy, could you read the motion so I make sure that...
The main motion?
Yes, please.
Main motion is to reduce by $14,000 from legal professional fees for 2015 and forward. So if you want to change the wording, you could, your amendment, instead of striking 14 and inserting 7, could be striking reduce by 14.
Okay, so I make the motion to strike the reduce by 14 to reduce to 33. A seconder for that amendment? Councillor Heem. Discussion on the amendment.
Why did you do that?
Well, there is some unpredictability to it, right? And I believe the 5-year average is 26? Correct? Or
No, 8-year average.
Sorry, 8-year average is 26. And so, recognizing the unpredictability of it, but also recognizing that if there is something unusual, the requirement to go back and amend the financial plan so that people are aware of the whys, for example, of why that changed. I'm basically putting in some level of a safety factor, but at the same time giving some recognition to the 8-year average. Any further discussion on the amendment? Councillor Milbank.
Well, I mean, I can speak to both of them more or less at the same time. I won't be voting for either of them, which probably won't come as a surprise. I don't think it's really an average if you're taking out 2 years. I realize that there are some exceptional situations that came up in those years, but that's the nature of what we do at the council table. There's always going to be something, and we don't know when we turn the corner, what issue it's going to be. And I think it's important that the district has the funds available without going through a financial plan amendment, which is time-consuming, and that may cause problems in and of itself. I think it's important that the district has the money available so that we can protect our interests, especially given some of the big projects and big decisions that are coming down the pike.
Councillor Scott.
I concur with Councillor Milbank in that this stuff is unpredictable, and I don't think we should be budgeting with the intent of going back and constantly amending the financial plan. I think amending the financial plan is the exception versus the rule. We're probably going to do it at least once a year, but I don't see that we should be continually going back and updating our financial plan. We should be coming out with a plan that we can live within. And is it going to be perfect? No, because none of us can predict the future, unfortunately. So, I prefer on the legal side, I'd rather have a safe amount in there that is appropriate, and not have to do potential amendments. As I say, it's an unknown thing. It's no different than snow removal.
Yeah, just speaking to my amendment, I just kind of did some quick numbers here and just need for clarification. So, Councillor Coulson, the $26,000 average that you came up with, was that 8 years out of 10?
It was 2004 to 2011, all inclusive. And I removed what would be called statistical outliers, do not include them in the average.
Okay. When I put back in those statistical outliers, the averages come out to 30,800, and then I did a slightly different way, and it came out to 32,000. So in terms of the 33 that I've proposed, it's it's within that statistical average. Even, hard to believe I'm a teacher, even with regards to including those anomaly years in there. So that, hence the reason for the 33. Okay, any further discussion on the amendment? Councillor Savage?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak against it. I think we're nitpicking numbers here. I really do. I have a problem going back to cost from 2004 and comparing it to 2015. But yeah, I'm not going to vote against your proposal for 33.
Okay.
We need to move on.
Okay. Any further discussion to the amendment? Councillor Scott.
You said you're going to vote for the 33, or you're voting?
Not sure that's
No, I'm supporting the 33.
Pardon?
I'll support the 33. Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion on the amendment? Councillor Hayne.
Well, it is just a number. Like we're above where we're at for the 40s. Like it's just a number.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none. All those in favor of the amendment? Opposed? Motion carried. Back to the original motion as amended. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. All right. Oh, is that what you? Oh, there. Okay. hesitate to say it, but any further discussion on the financial plan either?
Oh, come on, I got a bite on that. I move that we reduce council discretion line item to $10,000. Sorry, no. Reducing to $5,000 from the current 19.
There's a seconder for that. Do not do it for discussion, only do it because you need it. Second by Councillor Haney.
Well, because I have a question.
Discussion.
So what's the
Hang on,
lot?
Councillor Coulson?
Reason being, if we contribute to the Port Theatre, I believe that should be a separate line item. 10 years of contributions to something should not be a discretionary item, in my opinion. And the other one is, I think we can just reduce that in general. So if we back out the Port Theatre potential contribution, that takes it to 10, and I see an opportunity to reduce another $5,000 out of that item.
Okay. Actually, Councillor Haney, you had a question?
No, you answered it. Thank you.
Councillor Scott.
I thought we'd already reduced this once, $10,000.
No, we reduced the convention line item.
Yes.
So convention.
Yes. Councillor Haney?
A little bit off that, but I wonder if there's an appetite by council to make the Port Theatre a line item in the budget instead of just coming out of discretionary every year.
Well, there is a motion on the floor, though,
I
just to
know.
reduce the discretion.
I just think, again,
I guess, just as a question of similar nature, Councillor Coulson, is your intention to create a line item to put the Port Theatre on?
That would be my idea, yeah, if we are contributing to it.
Okay. Councillor Scott?
Well, actually, I was going to talk about the Port Theatre, but that's not relevant to the... Is it?
well, it's kind of part and parcel.
Depends what you're going to say.
I was just going to say, with the Port Theatre, and I don't disagree with being a line item, but it's a real... I think it's maybe something we should consider for dealing with in the next financial plan because of the late date of this financial plan. And I think that potentially, depending on what ultimately happens with water in Nanaimo, that could potentially change how it's structured as well. So we may be dealing with it as a line item and then removing it as a line item. So I think there's some considerations there. So at this late date, I prefer to leave it, I think, as is, and start to get into new line items.
Okay. Further discussion on the motion? Councillor Milbank?
The discretionary fund has come in handy a few times for things. The ones I remember we've used it for have been wildfire, interface wildfire planning, which I think didn't materialize, but the money was available. I can't remember why it didn't happen, but having the discretionary fund there meant that we didn't need to do a budget amendment in order to take advantage of that, which I vaguely remember was time sensitive as well. Also for the contribution to the Memorial Playground, that meant that the funds were available there to take advantage of that. I think we've also done some unusual mail-outs out of the discretionary fund. That's my recollection. So with the remaining $10,000 after the Port Theatre contribution, whatever that is, it's not a lot of money, and it has enabled us to take advantage of some opportunities to do things in a fairly small amount of time.
For myself, just two questions to the staff. Number one, in the past, was there a contribution to the cenotaph that came out of that line item? Or not?
I believe it was playground equipment for the school, CB school.
No, I realize that. But was there not a district contribution to the cenotaph?
No.
Oh, okay.
The other amount that has come out of there was the first year of the drinking water and
Watershed
watershed
protection
program. The very first year came out of that, but
Okay.
since then has been aligned.
Second question, what was the special advertising that was done through there?
What I recall is the year of the anniversary celebration was a number
Oh,
of
okay.
different types of things came out of the discretion for that project. Beyond that, I don't
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion defeated. I really don't want to say it again, but next, let's try that instead. Any further?
Yeah, I'll stop.
Okay. So, last call for any other proposed changes to the financial plan? Okay, hearing none, if we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the schedule of capital reserves, page 69 of your agenda. There's a list of capital reserves that exist, as well as projected 2015 contributions and projected 2015 expenditures. It does include an allowance for interest estimated at I'm assuming that's the interest rate there, 0.9%. Woohoo! That's why my mom's not traveling anymore. Questions, comments with respect to it? Councillor Coulson.
Question. So we've talked about a strategic discussion on what we're going to do with the hall and the church and such. Just putting this out for discussion. When do we foresee having that discussion?
Councillor Scott, go for it.
We have a lot of items I think that we have to deal with first before we can get to that point. Mayor Haim and I did meet on the weekend for an extended period of time to try and map out some of our challenges. And I think until we get some of our staffing situations stabilized and stuff like that, we're not going to be able to deal with a lot of items that we would like to deal with. There's going to be some time lag in there. So I think some of the priorities of council are going to have to be to deal with the staffing issues and get people in place and stuff like that before we can start diving deep into a lot of these items we would like to do that were under our strategic plan.
Councillor Haim?
Just two things. One, I don't think there's anything critical on Costin Hall and church.
They're not necessarily in terms of dollars, although
Yeah.
that may be. However, there is the consideration of the church aspect of the lease.
Okay, and then I have another question for the staff. So do we have the fire truck now, and is it paid for?
Hang on. The reference was to...
I thought we were just talking about capital altogether.
Okay, I thought we were talking specific to Costin Hall and that. If
I
everybody's
thought
done
we-
with that.
No,
then
it
it's
wasn't quite done.
Yeah.
The reason I asked that is there's $65,000 we've allocated to a washroom that I believe is going to the far end of Huddlesville Park. And so if there is the possibility of some grander project, that money could maybe be used toward that instead, rather than having a standalone washroom building. Is there some economies of scale to incorporate that into something that happens at the church or Costin Hall, something along those lines? That's what precipitated that.
Was that a question?
No, it's more rambling, but
Observation.
that's why I asked that question originally of when we foresee these discussions happen, because it could be an opportunity to use that money right now that we've allocated to the washroom toward a broader project, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Savage?
Thank you. Yeah, my recollection is that the Seaside Society contract with the lease of the church expires in December, I think.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little premature that we start talking now.
Okay. Councillor Haim?
Sorry. I think it might be later that I'll bring it up, the other issue. But I was just wondering about the fire truck. Do we have it now? I'm not
Yes,
sure.
it arrived on
Oh, it did? Okay. Okay. And the cost came in for budget and all that?
That's correct.
Okay, any other comments on the reserves, questions, clarification? Okay.
I said one final comment.
Yes.
Thank you, staff, for bearing with us and putting all this information together.
There's another item on the agenda. It says strategic priorities funding.
I have nothing to add on that at this point, given the
Okay.
timeline.
Okay. After 2 minutes. Public participation on the cow. Mr. Howell.
I just request that maybe you can raise your voices a little bit so that everyone over here can hear it quite clearly.
Okay.
What's being discussed. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. Additional. Okay. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Savage, Councillor Hain. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
I can maybe get me some dinner.
Yeah. See you in 35 minutes.
You going home for supper?
I might.